Hi, I'm Tim Evans, one half of the Super Podcast Bros Retro Gaming Show. When you get done listening to George and Greg, why not head over to superpodcastbros.com and give us a listen for some more retro gaming goodness. You can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, or at facebook.com/superpodcastbrothers. And remember to stay classic.
$200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES. You're listening to the SNES broadcast with your hosts, Soulblazer and George.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Super NES Podcast, episode number 80 for your listening pleasure. Coming at you from Providence, Rhode Island, this is one of your regular co-hosts, Greg, and I'm joined by my other regular co-host coming for you from Long Island, New York, George.
I'm hiding in a bunker right now. It's a concrete bunker. I don't know how I got internet, but I'm here.
It may not be a bad idea to be down there right now with everything going on in the world, so...
I know, right?
And as we teased last time, we were joined by another special guest host this episode, coming to you from the wilds of Minnesota. Special guest host, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Tim, from the Super Podcast Bros podcast.
Yeah, it's a great podcast.
Greg was worrying that he'd call him Tom again.
I was just...
I'll answer to it. It's fine.
I just figured it. I just figured it's more polite for the guest host to introduce himself. That's all. Yeah. Yes, Tim is one half of the duo that does the great podcast, the Super Podcast Brothers, which I highly recommend that you listen to if you're not already. They do some really wonderful stuff. As I was telling Tim off mic, I found his podcast because of the whole Coleco Chameleon fiasco about a year and a half ago. So, and really got hooked to it. So, great podcast.
I think that's how all 12 people who listen to the show have found it.
Well, I mean, you guys told me about it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to listen from episode 1.
Speaking of which, shout out, Mom. How you doing? I know you listen to everything I do.
Yes. We were supposed to be joined by his co-host Andy in this episode, but Andy had a couple of real-life commitments come up, so he wasn't able to make it, unfortunately.
A shame.
We're hoping to have both of them here in the future for one of our later podcasts, either in this show, or in the in PlayStation 1. So, but Tim, you are the one who picked the game we're covering this podcast tonight, right?
I am.
Okay.
It's a game I have a lot of affinity for.
Yes.
It is Squaresoft's Live Alive or Live Alive or Live Alive. I don't know how it's pronounced, but for the sake of unity, we will refer to it as Live Alive.
Okay. I was going to call it LAL.
Lulz.
Oh no! Abort!
I've always referred to it as Live Alive, but I don't know why. There's no reason for it.
I mean, I don't know if I could find anything online how to
I have no
pronounce
clue.
the name of this game.
Yeah, so. I couldn't find anything either. It's kind of do you prefer saying Gradius or Gradius, or do you prefer saying Galaga or Galaga, or Galaga or whatever? But it's one of those things. It's
or Galaga.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this originally on Facebook. So when I saw the name, I was like, Live a Live. Okay, sure. That's the name now.
It's stylized as the word live, uppercase A, and then Live with an uppercase L as well. So it's impossible to tell. And the only way that anyone would be able to tell, given the age of the game, is if there was some sort of TV spot, of which I could not find. So
the only hint that the game gives, I think, that the words are pronounced the same is that his header screen. The words printed twice. The first word is normal, and the second word is reversed. So
maybe
that's the only thing that kind of suggests to me that maybe it's maybe it's pronounced the same, but anyway, like whatever. So yes, this is Japanese only game. This is the third Japanese only game. So we covered here on this podcast. Incidentally, all three of those have been. All three of those games have been RPGs. Go figure. But
wait a second. If you flip the name backwards, it's evil. Evil. Oh no.
Oh. So it's a subtle hint.
That explains a lot. Yeah.
Right.
So Tim, I know you've talked a little bit about this like in your own podcast, but for the benefit of those listeners like this one, do you mind telling us a little bit about your history of the Super NES and some of your favorite games of the system?
Well, the Super Nintendo is my favorite home console. It's my as far as like plugging into the television console, it is by far my favorite console. I got it a little bit late in the game. I got it about Christmas of 1995.
Okay.
But I immediately fell in love with it. I was already in love with it before I had it, because I had friends who had it.
Right.
But I had sold my Game Gear to a schoolmate of mine, and took that money and then also sold a couple of Nintendo games to Funko Land. I don't know if you guys had that in your area.
I remember Funko Land like quite well.
The precursor to GameStop, and bought the Super Nintendo, and I had enough money left over for one game, and I got Star Fox. And then a couple of weeks later, my best friend from Florida came to visit, and he bought me for Christmas Chrono Trigger.
Oh yeah, great game.
A great present.
It was over from there. We spent the whole time he was visiting me. We spent the whole time like staying up late, drinking Mountain Dew, playing Chrono Trigger. It was the best.
That's how you spend your time.
Yep. So yeah, I have a lot of fond memories of the Super Nintendo, and being a huge JRPG fan that I am, it's just a playground for JRPGs. There's so many, and so many classics.
Right. Yeah. The Super NES is definitely well known like its RPGs.
Right.
So 95. They had the Super NES Mini out at that point, I think. Did you get a Mini?
No, I got the original because I bought a pre-owned one.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. Was yours in good shape, or the in good shape like the shell had? The shell already like when the discard yellow.
Oh no, it wasn't yellow. I had it for a very long time and it never yellowed.
Oh, so it was one of the later models.
Yeah.
Well, it must have been.
Earlier models do that, and then the later ones. Or is it the other way around? It's something like that.
Yeah,
I have one that's yellowed. I have one that's yellowed, and it's very heavy. It feels heavier, and then the one that I use that I play on is one of the newer ones with the plastic that doesn't yellow, and it's a lot lighter. And I opened it up to clean it, and when I opened both of them up to clean it, I noticed that there was some sort of heavy plate over the top of one part of it on the yellowing one. I don't know what was for, but it was there.
Maybe something
and
about
the original model, like another Mini.
The original ones that yellowed, the earlier ones.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's strange. Huh?
I have I have the newer one that didn't yellow. Thank God.
Yeah.
How old are both of you guys?
There's a big age difference between the two of us here.
Greg, why don't you go first?
I'm 41.
Oh,
okay,
right.
and then
that's right.
I know George is very young, right?
Yeah.
23.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm smack dab in the middle of you guys then.
Yeah.
What a sandwich.
Yeah, but you said you're 35, right? You said you're 35.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, the Super NES is my second favorite system, the NES is my favorite, and primarily the only reason the NES is my favorite, just because of the fact I was older. So, that's that system I had, as a kid. So, that's the one I kind of, I had 2600 as a very, very young kid when I was like 5, 6 years old. But memories of playing that are pretty fragmented. Whereas the NES I got when I was like 11, so I have like very strong memories of that system. Super NES, the first system I ever bought like my own money. I paid $180 for the system for Christmas '91, and then plunked down an additional $70 for Final Fantasy II, and didn't regret it like one bit. So
no, of course not. No,
yeah,
I'm the same. I have much more fond, nostalgic memories of the NES because that was my first video game console that I actually was just my own, and I played the heck out of it. And I know more about the NES than I do about the SNES, but just because of the RPG memories, right. The NES just bumps just a little higher.
Right.
My history with games is weird.
Yes, it is. Yeah, because at George's age, like the PlayStation like was his like kiddie system. So, but
I mean, even before that, because my parents were young enough to get a NES and a Genesis. So, when I was a kid, that's what I played was NES and Genesis for a while until we did get a PlayStation. I don't want to say late, but like somewhere around maybe mid of its life.
Right.
So,
whereas to me, the PlayStation like was like a college system for
right.
System,
The PlayStation 2 was like my big childhood console.
For me, the PlayStation was my high school system. I got it when Final Fantasy VII came out. That was
yeah, of course.
I actually recently got a copy of that. Thank God.
My mother, bless her heart, she got me the PlayStation. It wasn't my birthday. It wasn't Christmas. She just got it for me.
She just felt like it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
and
awesome.
we were not rich. We were not like, we did not have money to throw around. But she knew I really wanted to play Final Fantasy VII, and I came home from school one day, and there's a PlayStation in my bedroom, and I was like, just over the moon.
Yeah, I can imagine. But yeah. So we'll definitely have to have you on PlayStation Power like at some point, like about one of those games on there or so, because
for sure.
There's a lot of games I'm sure Tim would want to come on for.
Yep, like wrestling, because both of you are wrestling fans.
Andy much more than I. Yeah. I'm much more of a Jake the Snake, Hulk Hogan era wrestling fan, and he was much more of the Renaissance late '90s wrestling fan.
Well, you can still talk about. I think it's called Legends of Wrestling. That'd be up your alley.
Sure. Yeah, Sergeant Slaughter.
Actually, there's two of those games too.
Was Sergeant Slaughter in Legends of Wrestling? I can't remember.
He might have been.
I know
on
he was
one
in
of
G.I.
them.
Joe.
There's two of those games. He might be in one of them. I can't play my first copy because it's cracked or whatever, and so I played the second one, and I don't remember him being in that one. But Legends of Wrestling isn't too bad.
Yeah. Well, we have covered a wrestling game on this podcast, like already in the past, like the old school one.
What game was that?
WWF.
Oh, that's right. That was my choice. We did. Royal Rumble. I think it was.
Yeah, nice. I don't remember the subtitle like that one was. Like it was called, but at the time, at the time it came out, like pretty like good game. But,
I mean, it's better than a lot of the NES wrestling games. So
true. Yeah.
Oh gosh, better than Ring King for sure.
Well, A, I have some affection for Ring King, and for B, that was actually a boxing game, so that doesn't really count.
That's true. I forgot about that.
But the old Nintendo wrestling game for the NES is very, very good. I still like that game a lot.
I don't really like it.
Yeah.
For the time, it was great.
But speaking about other games, Tim, outside of the RPG library, what other Super NES games like you really love?
Oh wow! Which ones don't I love? I'm a big fan of the first party games. Pretty much all of them. I mean,
of course,
Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island. Not so much the puzzle games like Tetris Attacks. I do like Tetris Attacks.
But do you like Yoshi's Safari?
I liked your guys' show on it, episode 79. That was good.
Thank you.
Not a big fan of the game itself, but that's just me. I also really like the Mega Man X series, the three that were on there.
Yeah.
And Mega Man 7. I'm a big Mega Man fan. What else is there? The beat 'em ups, of course. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time. Love that game.
Oh yeah, same here.
Knights of the Round.
You might as well just list the whole SNES library.
Yeah, over the course of my life, I have delved deep, and I am a big fan of, as we're talking about today, the fan translated RPGs and various other games. But if I had to pick a couple of genres, I would say I kept my finger on the pulse of beat 'em ups and RPGs.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we haven't covered the Final Fight games yet, so maybe we'll have you back for that one.
Oh, those are great games.
Yeah. Speaking about this game, though, neither George or I had heard about this game until you mentioned it, and, for me, I was a big Squaresoft fanboy back in the day. It's like, the fact this game get my notice when I heard about all those other Japanese-only RPGs that they did, like Front Mission and, Bahama Lagoon, I'm like, how did I miss this one? But...
Well, I think it's because it didn't really push the hardware at all.
No, it didn't, and we'll talk about that. But I think, this game is pretty popular in Japan, and the reviews of it are very positive. I mean, this game definitely has a cult following for it. So,
it's very unique, unique game.
I definitely don't know much about games that don't come out in this region, which is a shame because I don't.
Right.
It's just like, what do? Do you just type in Google games that didn't come out in North America? What do you do?
Well, what I've always done
works, yes.
I've always been a big fan of. Back in the day, it was Zohar's Domain.
Oh yeah, I remember that
website.
Site. Yeah,
that was where I went for my translations, and then for the last many years, it's been romhacking.net.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's also very good.
That's where I got the translation here.
Yeah, the translation for this game is 10 years old, actually. It's so this was Flares was done quite a while ago.
Well, I mean, look at the Star Ocean translation. How old was that? That was that was 2001 or something like that.
Yeah,
2003.
Yeah.
Oh, 2003. Yeah, look
I was so pumped when that translation came out because I was such a big fan of. I just stumbled upon Star Ocean, the second story.
Did you play the remake of the first one that's on the PSP?
Yeah, I did.
It's absolutely different. Oh man,
it's so good.
Yeah, it is.
It's really good.
Oh yeah,
it's just. But yeah, I just stumbled upon the second game at a Walmart in Tallahassee, and then I didn't know that the original had just kind of skipped our shores.
Yeah, because they pushed the hardware so hard that they didn't want to take the expense and hassle trying to translate. You'll bring it over because that was one of the biggest games Super NES.
I play my Super Nintendo games on a Power Pack flash cart for the it's the third party cart that uses a CF flash. One of the things I'm most proud of is that I was able to hack the hexadecimal code of
oh god
of the Star Ocean header so that I could get it to run on that flash cart.
That is wonderful.
Cool.
On a television. And I posted it on the Star Ocean message board on Game FAQs, and I got a torrent of emails in my my inbox at Game FAQs could you send me that hex updated patch or whatever, and I still haven't responded to any of them because I don't know the legality of that.
Yeah, I mean it's when I understand you are allowed to edit and hack code as long as you don't sell it. So
but I wanted them to Venmo me $15, so that might have been tough.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So this being a Japanese only game, Tim, how'd you hear about this one?
This is one that I just stumbled upon on either Zohar or ROM hacking when I was unemployed, looking for a game to play, and I actually initially didn't care for it because I was like, oh, the graphics aren't very good. But then when I actually got into it, I was like, oh, it's kind of like the Saga. It's Saga Frontier, actually.
Yeah.
Oh,
this game reminded me of a lot of games. The Saga Frontier series.
We covered that on PlayStation podcast,
and I loved Saga Frontier.
Yeah.
So
that's a great game.
This really fell into that, and then I really got into it.
Yeah.
And now it's one of my favorite of the era for sure. There's so much variety to it.
Yeah. And this was not like and this was a fairly late Super Famicom game. This game, as we mentioned before, was developed and published by Squaresoft. It came out in Japan back in September of 1994, and was Japan only. Still has not been released outside of Japan. Like in Japan, this game is available on the Virtual Console, like the Wii U, and also on the. It's also on the 3DS. But if you want to play this game in the West, you either have to apply the translation patch to the ROM, to the ROM like we did, or you can also buy a reproduction cart like an eBay that has that programmed on there.
How much does that go for?
We will mention the pricing toward the end.
Okay.
Like the eBay pricing, it's not that bad. I mean, considering the fact that the reproductions are always a bit more expensive because somebody's doing the actual work of putting the patch on there for you, making a nice label and everything else. So,
is it possible to change your region and buy this on the Virtual Console for your 3DS or?
No, because it's region locked. So.
That's right. The Switch isn't though. You could do it if they had it on the Switch, but it isn't.
Yeah, right.
I don't know how you would do that.
I have a lot of Japanese titles on my Switch. All you do is you change your region to Japan, and then you make a new account after that on the console, and then make a new Nintendo account, and then you can download that and start it up with any account on your system. So it works beautifully. For now.
Right. I wish I knew Japanese, because then I could just go and buy the carts and everything and just play them.
Story of my life. There's a game I've been wanting to play on the SNES called what is it called? I can't think of it right now. This game called
Live a Live. It's really interesting. There's different stories, and it's kind of like Saga Frontier in a way, but it never came out in North America.
It's another RPG, but it's not made by Squaresoft. But it's just got so much dense kanji that no one's ever translated it. But I played a little bit of it in Japanese, quite a bit of it in Japanese, and it's so cool. I wish that and DJEP started to translate it, and then they of course went belly up. So it looks like it's never going to happen.
We'll wake them up if they're sleeping.
Hold on, I'm going to find it here. It's going to take me a second, because the DJEP site is still, if I believe, or if I remember, it's still around.
All right, I got the timer.
Yeah, and you can always find it using the Wayback Machine if you have to. So.
No, I'm going to look on ROM hacking, because they have partial translations listed.
Oh, that's my favorite part, when you download like a patch and they don't clearly label it as a partial translation.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah.
I know.
Yep.
ROM hacking changed their layout.
Yes.
Did they?
Yes, they're much better now.
Yeah, it looks really clean. I haven't been in like a month, so.
But yeah, my hat goes off to the people who are willing to do that, because it's bad now trying to translate Japanese like in English, which is hard enough, but trying to actually
well, they did change it.
But they also have to. But they also have to hack the game to get the set to make room for the English, because English takes up more space than kanji does. So
yeah,
well, there's two ways of going about it. There's basically changing the script so that it fits, or there's what you brought up, and some people have different ways. But
right.
I know a lot of these people who translate are so hardcore. They want as specific as a translation as they can get, as far as they understand.
That's not always good, though.
No, it's not, because you're not gonna. There are some things you just don't understand.
Well, especially when it comes to humor and puns, it's not gonna translate.
That too.
Yeah.
But that's another thing too. When if you're a translator and there's a joke, but an audience in North America is not going to understand it. What do you change it to? How do you change it?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to make a new joke, which has happened in fans' translations, where they just change it enough so that
See, I'm weird with that, because even if it's going to be a joke that goes over my head, I kind of want an accurate translation. I understand there's a whole thing of localization, and even games that came from Japan back in the day, they had a bunch of stuff change, and that kind of bothers me. But you know what? If it bothered me enough, I would probably learn Japanese to get the most out of it. But I just don't.
I have one friend who actually did that.
Well, they deserve a reward, some kind of bronze medal or something.
His reward is that he can play games that are just straight up imported.
Right. My least favorite part of my least favorite part of localization is the whole. This is a different audience. We have to remove this section completely, and it's like, really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I found the name of the game I was thinking of. It's Far East of Eden Zero.
That's a very interesting name.
I've never heard of it.
Well, it's actually called Tengai Makio Zero, and it's just a standard RPG, but it has a anime charm to it of the type that I really like, and the production values are so high on it. It looks as much like a cartoon as you could do on the SNES. And it breaks my heart. It's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to learn Japanese to play this game because it would take an insane amount of time. It's such a long game, and it's one of those games that you can't emulate as easily as some others because it's got like 2 different chips in it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's super compressed as well. I think there's some kind of a accolade that it has like one of the largest SNES games. But there have been other games in the series, and a couple of them we've seen come to our shores one way or the other, like a fighting game in the Tengai Makio series. I think it was called... what was it?
Don't ask me.
Yeah, I can't think of it. It's on the Wii U and Switch virtual consoles. But yeah, it's got a long history. The whole series has a decently long history, and it just captured my imagination, and I felt really depressed about translations from then until Tomato finished the Mother 3 translation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that game.
How do you guys feel about Earthbound?
I really like Earthbound.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Earthbound, and actually, Earthbound is one of the games. One of the games that this game reminded me about, because it's like,
it's true.
Really?
Yeah, because the world map screen and the battle scenes, they kind of have that Earthbound kind of look and feel to me. Like,
true.
The sprites look similar. The graphical styles are very similar.
But you see your character move around and do stuff.
I honestly didn't get that feeling. That's really weird.
Yeah. I mean, I was reminded of Earthbound playing it. I was reminded of Saga. I was reminded of Saga games that Tim mentioned. Tim, since you're the one who has the most experience in history of this game, maybe be kind enough to tell listeners what this game actually is, like how it plays.
No, you go ahead and do it. I'm just kidding. This game, it's a series of vignette stories that are all in different eras or locations or both, and they all have one unifying villain in one form or another. Think of, if you're familiar with Stephen King's works, think of Randall Flagg in The Dark Tower.
Yeah.
Where it's the same entity but across multiple places of space and time. And you choose, when you start the game, and when you finish a vignette, you choose a character, and they I think, what is it, 7? 8?
7. Yeah, there's 7 you can pick from the beginning of the game. Like, then after you finish the first 7, it unlocks 2 more.
Yeah. The ones you choose from there is a robot, the sci-fi chapter, which follows a robot, the end. I mean, there's more to it than that, but and then there's someone in the very near future, like it's kind of funny. I would think of it as like Akira, which is his name. And then there is one that takes place in the modern day, like a fighting thing. One that takes place in caveman times. One that takes place in I would assume 1800s China, passing on a kung fu technique. One that takes place in what I would again assume late 1800s, early 1900s, United States, cowboy chapter. So there's a little something for everybody there.
Right.
And then when you finish all these vignettes, you choose the last one, which is kind of a medieval. And then after that, you choose, for the final chapter, you choose who you want to be your main character. There's a ninja as well. You choose out of all the characters who you want to be your main character for the last chapter, and that changes the last chapter. And if you choose the final guy, whose name I can't remember, the medieval guy, if you choose him, the last chapter is significantly different.
So there's different endings depending on which character you select.
Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
definitely.
when you beat the game with that character, can you go back in a save and do it again with a different character, or do you have to?
No, you cannot. But you can make a separate save.
Right.
So what I did is I made a save right at the beginning of that chapter,
right,
before it makes you choose, because you can save right at the end of a vignette. So I saved
you could
at
also
the very
save
end.
state if you can't. I mean, that's a thing on
I
emulator.
I saved at the end of the medieval vignette, and then it's open to who you want to choose to be your main character for the last chapter. And then during that chapter, you choose who you want to be in your party out of the other characters, because they're all transported to this medieval area, which has branching areas, and then there's, depending on who your characters are, there are tests that are based on their vignettes, and then it all comes together with fighting the main evil force, and then depending on who you chose, you'll get a different ending.
Honestly,
another game that reminds me about is Chrono Trigger.
Yeah,
Play in that regard because of the multiple endings.
I honestly wanna play through the rest of this game. I mean, there are other games that we covered that I definitely want to see the end of, but like this one, like, definitely just, I was playing it like minutes before we started recording, so
there's something very intriguing about this game.
Yeah, it's very unique, and like, it's a real shame this game never came over to the West. I mean, we can talk about that later on, but
I don't think it would have done well. I don't think
so either, to be honest.
This was during the golden age of Square's releasing their games on the Super NES over here, though, and there was talk that the game was planned for a Western release.
This is kind of a different game.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, like, there was one game that already was. There was one game that was already out at this time period that plays very similar to this. This game is very unique, but I was also reminded a lot about two other like RPGs that kind of do somewhat similar thing, like how the gameplay goes. I'm not sure if you guys have played them. The first game is Dragon Warrior 4.
Of course,
because Dragon Warrior 4, you have Dragon Warrior 4 operates in kind of a similar way, in which you have chapters. You can't pick the chapters in that game. It goes in linear fashion, but you play different characters in each chapter, and then and the main character of the game is not even introduced until chapter 5. Right. So at that point, then you go ahead and recruit everybody else in the previous chapters and go on to finish the game.
And some of those chapters are radically different.
Yes.
A la Torneko. Torneko's chapter is super different.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And then the other game this reminds me a lot about is Final Fantasy IV: The After Years, because that game also, you can choose which character you want to play at.
True.
Nobody's ever played that one because it's kind of like unknown, just like an unknown game. But I love Final Fantasy IV, so I definitely wanted to play it. But you get to choose in that game, like, you choose which character that you want to do, and then finally, after you finish each character, like, it unlocks the final. The final part of the game. So, and again, that's Square game. So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. I was just gonna finish it up by saying, the Square Square's kind of, Square's just kind of, cribbing their own past there with like that game flow, I think, like in this game. But
well, one thing that when I originally played this that I thought of two games, Final Fantasy IV and Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, and then I realized that was purely based on the graphics because they look like that.
Yeah, the graphics in this game are mixed bag, I think. I mean, like I said, I see an Earthbound charm to them, but these graphics do not push Super NES hardware.
No, it's very primitive in terms of what the SNES could do. However, there's so much variety going into it. I understand why they did it.
I mean, honestly, I really like the way it looks because it sets the tone for where you are and what you're doing.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's pushing the hardware or not. I mean, I feel like they had a better art style than, what do you call it? Like, the art style is better than what they can make out of the graphics, but, that just really adds to it because something can, look really good, but the art style can look so plain and bland and
that's true.
So on and so forth. Like, this really added to it because when I was playing the scenarios that I played, just this is very fitting. It lets you know what's going on in the world without a sign saying, "Hey, stuff's going on in this world."
That's true. It leaves something up to your imagination.
Right.
Yeah, most chapters do have hidden things to find, and secret bosses secret boss that you can fight if you want to, and other stuff like that. So it's I feel like this game really encourages exploration.
Yes.
Yeah, especially some chapters. There are some chapters that have hidden items, and some of those are very, very, very good. The caveman chapter in particular has an item that I can't remember what exactly it's called. Is it called the Coca-Cola bottle or something?
I've got it written down here. Let me see. It looks like it doesn't have the name of the item though, unfortunately. But
it does damage. It does decent damage to a huge area.
Right.
Well, I guess I should talk about the battle system a little bit.
I mean,
I didn't bring that up. The battle system is very unique.
Yeah, it's great.
The battle system is based on a grid.
Yes.
And but it's not what you'd call a strategy grid exactly. It's when your character or your enemy's turn, you can move freely with the D-pad for a bit, and then hit the A button, and it'll bring up a menu of what to do. And every ability has a different range as far as where it can hit, and then where it hits has a range of where it's going to hurt. And the enemies take up a certain amount of space. You take up one, just one. You take
up one square, and then the enemies, most enemies take up two, at least two. So. Yeah, which is so interesting. It makes me feel like almost every battle I get into is a Final Fantasy boss battle or something.
Yeah, because everything is bigger than you and more well drawn than you.
Right, there's more detail in the enemies than your own character. But I guess that might be a good thing because you can use your imagination on what your character looks like compared to what the enemy looks like. Because
I was gonna.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go on.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna ask you guys kind of a nebulous question, and that was that, what's your favorite character that you played so far?
Well, I only had time to finish 3 chapters, and I left at the 4th one. I took the order that Wikipedia just had them listed, so I did the prehistoric, the ancient China, and feudal Japan chapters.
Oh, who did you choose for ancient China? Because in that chapter, you can decide from 3 disciples who you want to be the character. There's a girl, a really big, strong, slow guy, and then a skinny, middle of the road guy.
Yeah, I was that last guy. I was the middle of the road guy because I kind of favor middle of the road characters.
Yeah,
I did that one too, and I what's his name? Not the fat guy and not the girl.
Yeah, the same one, the middle of the road guy.
Yeah.
I always choose the girl because whenever I play, whenever I can choose a character, I always make them a girl.
Of course you do.
I don't exactly know why. I have theories, but I don't know why.
It's for reasons that we can't say on this podcast.
No, well, I don't think it is actually. I don't think it actually is. I thought about that, but yeah. So that's kind of a cool thing in that chapter, that you can choose who you want to pass your technique down to, because that chapter is based around you're this aging kung fu master who is the only holder of this secret type of kung fu, and you have to decide who you're going to change. You're going to die soon, and you have to choose who you're going to pass your technique onto, and you find these 3 ne'er-do-wells, basically, and they become your disciples, and then you get to basically get to decide who's going to become the follower, but you have to do it. You have to go about it in a specific way.
A menu does not pop up.
No, you have to just kind of
great. Like,
yeah, you have to.
It's like the game whoever you favored in training.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
The game follows who you actually like. Which is really cool. I think that might have been a first, that the game is just kind of reading. It's like
dynamic to how you play.
Yeah, I think it is one of the first examples I can think of. So, but.
Yeah,
very cool. So you played the Kung Fu chapter, the Caveman chapter, and what other chapter?
The Feudal Japan.
Oh, the ninja.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the ancient. Yep, yeah, prehistoric ancient China, like feudal Japan. So yeah, the ninja.
The feudal Japan chapter is by far the longest, most complicated one.
Yeah, so out of the 3 chapters, I think I probably like. So out of the 3 chapters I've played so far, I think that Pogo is probably my favorite character, just because it's like playing a caveman is pretty unique. I mean,
it is really cool.
You can do that. So,
did you play the same chapters, George?
I played the ancient China. I played modern wrestling, and I played near future, the
Akira.
near future one. Yeah.
And
I started sci-fi, and I'm like 5 minutes in.
Yeah, I started like the American Old West chapter, like left off there.
Oh, Sunset Kid, yeah, he's awesome too. All the characters are very different.
Oh yeah. Well,
I like that.
What's really interesting?
12 main characters altogether in the game, so that's pretty cool.
What's really interesting is that the scenarios are all different, but when you go into battle, they play a little differently too.
Yes.
Yeah. True.
Because if you play the wrestling one, the wrestling one, like the name of the game there is to learn attacks from your enemies, and then use that against the final boss of that story. And it's so short, but like.
It kind of plays like Mega Man in the terms of you choose who you fight and you get their ability.
Right, and what's important there is learning what abilities to use and how to use them, because you're not leveling up there, you're just gaining skills. Whereas other scenarios, like you have a chance to kind of grind. And like the other thing about this battle system and everything is. You never see how much experience you get from enemies. Like, it'll just randomly tell you when you level up. And sure, you can go into the menu and see the experience that you have, but it doesn't tell you, like, oh, you leveled up and then you gained these types of attributes. It tells you when you gain skills, but, like, if you gain power, it's, like, outside of leveling up. The ancient China scenario. When you're training, it tells you like when you get power up and everything, and it tells you like when you level up, but it doesn't tell you what the specific attributes went up. And this is interesting because it kind of in a way gave me a feeling of RPG light in a way.
Yeah, a little bit. It also kind of gives you a feeling of the Saga series, the Romancing Saga series, because specific attributes will go up.
Yeah.
Which is. Not
and specific
normally.
Attributes are important because there are specific attacks that use like IQ, and there are specific attacks that use, obviously like power,
Dex.
Right. I saw
agility.
one. Yeah, I saw one in again in the ancient Chinese scenario where one of them was like based on health, and I was like, this is weird, but okay.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two other unique elements of the battle system that this game has. That I really liked. First of all, you guys mentioned experience points like a while back. This game does what a couple other games do. It just has a fixed amount of XP you need to reach level. It's 100 XP for each level, and that never changes.
Right.
You prefer that?
Right, and just certain monsters, they do grind long enough in an area. Certain monsters just won't give you XP anymore. So it's that's the game's way kind of telling you to move on.
This game is more about being technical than it is grinding and leveling up.
Right.
I mean, if you look at walkthroughs, they'll say make sure your character's level 9 or 10 or something.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's not super important. It's more important to have a good strategy.
Right. It's more technical than some RPGs where you just need to go and grind and you could brute force things. Where a lot of scenarios you can't really brute force things.
Yeah, and that brings me to my second point. About strategy. Characters will recover all their HP after the battle's done.
Yes.
So you just have to focus upon keeping them alive. If they get hit, if a character gets knocked out, i.e. their hit points reach 0 in the battle, you can still bring them back to life as long as they don't get hit again. If they get hit again, then they vanish. They vanish in that battle.
That wasn't a problem for me when I started playing the game, and then when I got to specific scenarios, the AI was so. It was just they were hardcore into. Okay, he's down. Let's attack him. And I was like, this is getting a little brutal.
It gets egregious after a while.
Yeah. It's
it
crazy.
is cool that it gives you an extra hit. It's cool that it gives you a little chance.
Right. Battles in this game are random. I kind of wish this game had borrowed from Chrono Trigger again, and it allows you to see the enemies. But most games this time period did random battles, so it's okay.
Well, Chrono Trigger didn't entirely let you see the enemies. There were certain fixed points.
Yeah, mostly, but
what are you talking about? I always saw the enemies in this game. That's not sarcasm.
There were some areas in the Caveman chapter where I just ran into enemies for no reason.
Okay, I didn't play the
the
Caveman chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some chapters in this game where it is just you're walking along and bloop bloop, you're in a battle. But there are other areas where you come in contact with an enemy and then the battle starts. So
yeah.
Oh, okay. I must not have played any of those chapters then. So it's kind of interesting that they do both.
They do a little combination of both.
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy because a lot of these scenarios just they have different mechanics where the near future one had an overworld of the city and you could go around, whereas ancient Chinese
there was none of that.
You were traveling around, there was no overworld, and then
there was 4 different screens and that was it. 4 different maps,
something like that. Yeah, and then the wrestling one, the modern time one, you were selecting enemies to fight, and that was it.
Yep, and then in the sci-fi chapter, there's no, again, the ancient Chinese chapter, there is no map. It's just you're on a ship the whole time.
Oh, okay.
It plays a lot more like the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh yeah, I can see
and
that.
Then
I know a few people who like that game, that movie.
Oh, that's Andy's favorite movie of all time, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time too. But it's polarizing. But
yes.
The sci-fi chapter is more uncovering a mystery aboard this. You're alone in this space station, and you're this robot, or you're not alone, but you're in space. No one can hear you scream, kind of thing.
Space,
and the
final frontier. These are the voyages of the SS Cube.
Oh, I just stepped in the captain's log. But then, like the cowboy chapter, it's in with a town. It's within like a little town. So there's a lot of variety when it comes to that kind of stuff.
I think what I really like about this game is how different it becomes. Like, because I'll go from one scenario, it's like, all right, yeah, no, that was great, and then like I'll go to another scenario, and instead of like getting burnt out or whatever, or having a risk of being burnt out, like they change everything. And you're getting introduced to new characters, and you're going in and you're learning about the plot of this story. And then it's just like, okay, let's see how, the battle system works and this and that. And it's like, oh, this is great because of how different everything is. It's making me wonder, like, oh, I'm jumping into this story now. Like, what's this about? Like, how is everything going to work? Is there going to be like an overworld, so on and so forth? And that's awesome. I can't remember how many games do that, but it's like not many.
Not many.
Yeah.
They turn that exactly on its head for the last chapter too, because the last chapter is kind of like an amalgamation of everyone else's chapters. So if you've been playing the game for a long time, you'll get memories. You'll see like areas that remind you of certain aspects of the other chapters, and then within the epic final battle, it's just everything all coming together. It's like the have either of you or both of you played Final Fantasy VI?
Yes.
I have not finished it, but I played it.
Yeah, I love that game.
Do you know the part before you fight Kefka for the final time, and he's, all the characters come forward and they say something that relates to their particular struggle?
Yes.
It kind of falls into that, where it's like, oh, I'm not going to let you change the way the world works, or, this is our world, kind of over-the-top optimism kind of thing. And it's just, it's a great feeling. You're like, oh, yeah, I'm invested in these characters. I've been through all this. I've been through all these periods of time, and I remember these characters, and these places are real to me now, and this battle means something to me. Which is really cool. I don't think enough games do that, where they... Well, obviously, but I mean, like, I think that more games would benefit greatly from taking a lesson from this game and getting the character... masterfully getting the character invested in the characters. Or getting the player invested in the characters.
Right. Yeah.
Remember that cowboy scenario? Ooh, they were really interesting.
That sure was neato.
I hope they come back. I'd like to meet those guys.
Well, you learn a lesson in each of the chapters. Each of the chapters, the character grows in some way. That's another really neat thing, is that all these characters learn or move or change in some way, and that's integral to their story.
Yeah, and there's another optional part also. There's another example comes to mind comparing this game to Final Fantasy VI, like that. Like that game where some of the last chapter is optional. The very last chapter in this game has a lot of optional stuff too, because you can go into dungeons if you want to get powerful equipment, equipping up your party to make them more effective, like that final battle. So
there's some areas in the final chapter that you walk into and you can't do anything with because that character's not in your party.
Right.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
I'm specifically thinking of a cave that has giant rocks that you need to break using the kung fu character, and you can't get in there because you can't break the rocks because you don't have the technique.
That's pretty cool.
It is neat.
I definitely need to finish this game.
And then, like I said, if you choose the medieval guy, number 8, the 8th main character, I can't remember his name because, honestly, I didn't play him much. The whole last chapter is different because, well, I can't say why because it'll spoil it.
Yeah, don't spoil it.
Yeah. But it's good to have a save right there at the end so you can play through everyone's final, if you really want to, you could play through it, 8 times. But it's cool to have it there because it is worth seeing his ending as well.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's very hard for me to find time to play JRPGs these days. Because
tell me about it.
Just because I'm so busy, but I definitely do want to go back up and this game at some point. And it's not, and from what I'm seeing here online, it's not an overly long game. Most people are reporting on average that this game taking around 20 to 30 hours to finish. So it's not like super long, but
it can be if you want it to be, though, because you could spend a lot of time in certain chapters making sure certain things happen,
right?
Especially in like certain chapters where you want an enemy to drop a certain item. That can take a long time of reloading.
Yeah.
So it's got hidden time in that regard.
So the last part of the game we have talked about yet is the music. It's
great.
Typical. Yeah. Well, I was going to say it's pretty typical Square Super NES music in being very high quality. I mean, because of course, that's okay. I mean, because they, the same person. I don't have it up at the moment, but the same person who wrote the music for this game also worked a bunch of other Squaresoft games.
I really want this music on my computer or whatever, something I own.
You should.
Oh, okay, yeah. The soundtrack for this game was done by Yoko. I'm going to butcher this name, Shimomura.
Yoko Shimomura.
Yeah,
she's
also composed music to
fantastic.
Final Fight and Street Fighter 2.
She is.
And Parasite Eve.
Kingdom Hearts.
I've
Mario
never
Luigi
played
Superstars
Parasite Eve.
Saga.
Is that a crime?
You've never played Parasite Eve?
No, I have not.
Oh, you should. It's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Both Parasite Eve games are very different, but they're both very good for different reasons, I think.
More recently, Yoko Shimomura also did the music for Radiant Historia.
Oh yeah, that's right. I
don't
remember hearing
know what
about that.
is.
It's a JRPG for the Nintendo DS, and then
that's probably why I don't know about it.
No, it's also an Atlas game, so
Okay.
Next year, it's coming out they're remaking it, or not remaking, but re-releasing it for the 3DS.
Oh.
Radiant Historia Ultimate or something like that, where they're just kind of polishing it up.
Is that coming over here?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll have to go get it.
It sold. The original game sold very well because of the pedigree of people who were behind it, and also there's a lot of bad RPGs on the DS.
Yeah.
Radiant
Tell me that.
Radiant Historia is one of the best RPGs on the DS. It feels like of the caliber of something like Chrono Trigger.
See, I don't really play DS or 3DS, so.
Oh darn!
I have a 3DS, but I don't have. I have a 3DS, but I only have maybe 6 games.
I play more on my
system,
Vita than I do on my 3DS.
Really? What do you play on Vita?
A lot of PSP games and some PlayStation games.
Right on, man. I just recently got a Vita and been getting into the library because it's not dead, but it's on its deathbed.
There's one game that I suggest. Crap, what is the name? Go on and talk while I figure this out.
Well, I've been playing a lot of games on Vita, but I'm a huge fan of the Game Boy line of systems, including the DS and 3DS.
Yeah, same here.
And I was just saying on the recording that Andy and I did yesterday that my 3DS barely ever leaves my side unless I have to go to work. Stupid work.
Dang you, work! I'm shaking my fist right now.
Not having to be able to play Monster Hunter Stories demo, which is what I'm into right now.
Do you have Lost Dimension for the Vita?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a great game, right?
It is a good game.
Oh, man.
Very good game.
Yeah, I downloaded it and started playing a little bit on the DS because their DS, a game, like an RPG, they got highly recommended because of another podcast I listened to, Crimson Shroud.
Oh yeah, really
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the 3DS definitely has a lot of niche RPGs on it, so it's a good system for that.
Crimson Shroud is not for everyone.
No, it's not.
Tim,
it's
do you
very
have
unique. So.
do you have Freedom Wars on Vita?
No, I don't.
Oh,
what is that?
You might need to get it. It's kind of like Monster Hunter in a way, but it's not full on Monster Hunter. It's really
I don't
cool.
like. I'll put this out there. I don't like Monster Hunter.
Okay.
But I love what I've played so far of Monster Hunter Stories because it's so different.
I haven't played that, so I wouldn't know.
It's a turn-based RPG, which has made Monster Hunter fans furious.
This is not that, but
yeah.
Not to get too much into that kind of stuff, but it's really, we can talk about that later. It's a really cool game that I like.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Live Alive. The reason why I suggested it to you guys
I thought it was Live Alive.
Or Live Alive. Sorry. I'm so used to saying Live Alive.
I thought it was Live Alive.
Well, I thought it was Heavy Head.
I thought it was Evil of Evil.
Well, the reason why I suggested it initially is because there's so much variety.
Because it's so good.
So I figured. Well, that too, but also because I figured that it was a safe bet that there's so much variety. There's something for everyone in it.
True, I think so. I mean, I think one of you guys mentioned this before. This game is a very good light RPG, I think. I mean, this is the kind of game that somebody who's not a real serious fan of RPGs can still get into, and enjoy.
I feel like this might be like the gateway to RPGs.
Which is another reason why I suggested because originally Andy was going to be on this, and I know that Andy is not an RPG fanatic like I am, and he's very picky and choosy about his RPGs. And that was another reason why I chose it, because I was like, okay, well, this is not going to get, like, grindy and boring for him.
No, it's not. I mean, like, chapters are pretty, like, light and breezy. I mean, like, like George said earlier, you can fly through the chapters if you want to, but...
Yeah, some of the chapters you can finish in a couple hours.
The wrestling one is so short. Like,
it's really short.
Hours, it's, like, a matter of, like, maybe, like, half an hour or something like that.
But, yeah, so that was why I chose this game, is because, A, I fell in love with it, and B, it just keeps things fresh.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Yeah, it's a real shame this game didn't come out in the West, because this game is very unique. It definitely has. This game definitely has that SquareSoft charm and feel that their Super NES games this time period did. While at the same time, it's very approachable. I mean, it's like there's really only a couple bosses that I had any kind of problems with. Most of the game was like, I wouldn't call it easy, but I just say it like a pretty good average difficulty, where it's like not too much of a challenge to get through, which is nice because it allows you to focus on the characters and the story.
It definitely has a lot of polish going for it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And the translator, who I believe was Aeon Genesis.
Yes. Yeah.
And Aeon Genesis is another website that I keep bookmarked because I don't know if it's I don't know if it's a guy or if it's a group. But
I think it's a group.
But they do some real quality stuff.
Yes, they do. The translation of this game is like very good. So, but
one more thing that we didn't talk about is that it's like a lot of the assets in the game, like the font and cursors and stuff, change between chapters, so they look different. It's kind of neat. I
forgot about that. Yeah, but
it's not like a Final Fantasy thing or whatever, where it's just like, oh, it's like a hand pointing or something like that. Like, each icon's different. Like, there's a fish, there's a panda, there's like a wrench. Like, that's some pretty cool stuff. Like, some nice touches.
It's just a nice little, little wink, you know. And the near future chapter, the icon is a
fish.
A pastry. It's a fish paste. It's a fish-shaped paste. Well, it's a ship. It's a
it's a ship.
It's a fish-shaped pastry that is filled with atsuki beans, a traditional Japanese dessert.
Me.
Okay, yeah.
I thought it was.
Well, I think one of the reasons that each of the chapters.
I didn't think it was real because I played this game. I played this game originally a long time ago, and then I went to Japan, and I was at a girl's house, and her mother had made these pastries with atsuki beans in them in the shape of a fish, and I went, "Oh my goodness, what is this?" And they were like, "Oh, it's a traditional Japanese dessert." And I was like, that makes so much sense. I've seen this in so many JRPGs.
Actually, I forgot to mention this point earlier. I think that one of the reasons, Tim, that each of the chapters sort of looks and feels so different, there was different artists who illustrated each chapter. There were 7 Magna artists who worked together.
Oh,
to make
really?
This game.
I didn't know that.
So each of them was assigned a chapter. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so that explains a large part of it as to why the look and feel is so different.
That does make a lot of sense.
So, yeah, I mean, like in closing, I think, this game, I knew nothing about, so I really want to thank you, Tim, for bringing this back to my attention. I wish I had more time to finish it. I will finish it eventually, one of these years, probably.
I'm going to go back to it tonight.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love to hear that.
But it's very very unique. It's very fun. I mean, I think anybody who, as long as you at least have a slight tolerance for RPGs, I think the person can probably pick up this game and enjoy it pretty easily, because the characters are well developed. The music's great. The story flows at a very breezy pace. It doesn't really get bogged down in anything. The difficulty seems well paced and balanced. All in all, this game really is very, very polished. And this really shows why Square pretty much did nothing wrong during the Super NES time period, like their games, because the quality here is just 10 out of 10.
I don't know. It needs more grinding. How about 15 hours of grinding?
Yeah, I want some gritty gunmetal front mission stuff in there.
Hey, don't make fun of that.
I do love front mission.
No,
though,
I love front mission.
But totally different game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love front mission to death. It's so good.
Yeah, we covered that on the PlayStation podcast.
Front Mission 3, yes, my favorite of the series.
Yeah.
That was my introduction, along with many Westerners.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
I found it randomly on the store, and I put it on my Vita, and I was like, all right, let's play this. And,
it was being sold when I worked at Toys R Us, and I stole it.
Well, then.
Yeah.
But the Front Mission remake that came out for the
limitations,
GBAs...
they can't do anything about it now, so...
Yeah.
Tim, you're under arrest for stealing a PlayStation game back in 1972.
No, it was 1999. They can't, 2000. Can't do anything about it now.
How long is the statute of limitations?
I think it's 5 years on theft.
Okay. Okay. Did you do research before you brought this up?
I work for the government.
I
work for the government, and I work alongside law enforcement, so I know all that stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. You just go around telling people, oh yeah, a while ago I stole something from my other place of employment when I was younger.
No, well, I was 17 years old.
Right, so you were a punk.
Yeah, I was a total
fighting
punk.
against the man stealing a PlayStation game.
Yeah, I was just I work here. This sucks. I'm gonna take something. Whatever.
Hey, man.
It was dumb. I shouldn't have done it. I should have paid for it. And I also stole Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2.
Well, see, now I can understand why you would steal that.
But I went back and just threw money in the register for it because I had so much fun with it. I was like,
that's weird. We have extra money tonight.
Yeah. And I didn't. They did definitely notice that there was too much money in the till, but they definitely didn't do anything with it other than keep it. So I feel
that's weird. There's a note here. It says for
I'm so sorry for stealing. Signed, Bimothy Jevons. Who the hell is Bimothy Jevons?
Yeah, George, you've already mentioned some praise for this game, but do you have any final thoughts on it?
It's good. Play it.
You're gonna go back and play it tonight, like you said. That's high praise.
Yeah, I want to play that sci-fi story. See what Cube's doing. Cube,
that's a great story
Cube,
too.
the spherical robot.
The baseball-shaped robot.
Right.
Yeah. So Tim, what about you? Anything else you want to add on?
No, not really.
Okay.
It's just this is a very unique.
Is this game worth stealing?
This
Yes.
game's worth buying, I think, if you want to, because that's going to be eBay pricing. Because,
but you can't
like I said,
steal it online.
Yeah. True.
Emulation is stealing.
Oh no!
I would never say that. I emulate so much.
Oh yeah, I
so do
emulate
I.
a lot too.
Yeah.
I actually emulate some stuff that I own because my PS2 doesn't read the CD-ROMs anymore.
Okay. I emulate a lot of stuff that I own as well because my PSP is my emulation machine, and I just like to have it all in the same spot.
Right.
So I have a lot of my GBA games on there. I'm like, I'm not.
The weird thing I have with the PSP is like sometimes I go to the Vita and play the PSP, and sometimes I go to the PSP to play PSP games. It's really weird. It makes me feel odd.
It depends, because there are some games on the PSP that play better on the PSP, and there are some PSP games that play better on the Vita.
Well, some of the things are like, well, you can't connect the servers anymore, so you gotta, to play PS Plus games, you gotta do it on the Vita because it connects to the server still.
Especially a lot of virtual not virtual console, whatever, PS1 classics.
Yeah.
Like the game that I had mentioned to you guys a while back, Mega Man Legends 2.
Oh, right.
I have that on the Vita and not on the PSP because it has 2 sticks. And you need 2 sticks, and you need to have.
What are you using that other stick for? Face buttons or something, or?
Camera. I use the first stick to move and the left stick to move, right stick to look around, and then I touch the back touch pads in order to use the R2 button.
That's my least favorite part of the Vita is the back touch.
The only game that it actually feels really natural and good in is what's that Nathan Drake series?
Oh, Uncharted.
The Uncharted game for Vita, that you climb a ladder by rolling your fingers on the back.
Yeah,
and that actually feels alright.
Yeah, and then there's there's so many gimmicky stuff in there, like make sure you put the camera in front of a light source.
Oh yeah, it's so dumb.
But it was still a good game. It's still a good game anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking about good games,
Live a
this
Live
game
is a good game.
Yeah. This game's gotten very highly rated. I mean,
I'm not surprised.
The average ratings like this game pretty much come out to 4 out of 5 stars.
It's lower than I expected. I thought it was going to be like 4.5.
Yeah, and back in 2011, GamePro did a series which they covered. They covered the 14 best JRPGs that were not released in English.
Games you will never play.
Basically, yeah. I think all those games I'm pretty sure all those games have been translated with patches like want to by now. But saying the
series is called Haha Westerners.
That's something that somebody would go and stream, and they put their stream title as Haha Westerners. Like that's what that would be. That would be a stream title.
I'm not surprised that this was on that list, though, given the pedigree of the people involved and the quality of it.
Yeah. GamePro also mentioned that article that that Square had originally planned to bring this game over to the West, but eventually decided against it.
Well, it's so late.
To the West?
It's so late.
Well, no, not really, because Chrono Trigger came out like 95.
Yeah, but Chrono Trigger's got Akira Toriyama's name behind it. They have to bring it here.
That's a big name to have.
Super Mario RPG was like 96, so there were some very late RPGs that still came out with the system.
Yeah, but did anybody buy them?
I did.
That's true, I did too.
So nobody bought them.
Never mind.
No, Tim, you stole it, didn't you? You didn't buy it.
No, I wasn't working at Toys R Us yet.
Oh, I see. You weren't angry about crappy work.
No, I didn't have a key to a storeroom with no cameras.
Who needs a key?
Well, no, because there was cameras everywhere except for in that little storeroom where we had our stock from the developers and our publishers rather. So I would go back there and just throw the jewel case in the corner and take the CD and throw it in my Jenko jeans pocket, and then I would be like, oh, I'm gonna go on break, and I go in the break room and slip it in my backpack, and that was it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
please go more into detail on how you stole things.
I was not a good person.
Hey man, I don't think anybody at that time was a good person.
So if you want to buy a physical copy of this game, the original, if you one of those poor souls, but I guess maybe not. Lucky few actually can read Japanese.
Poor soul.
The original game can be shipped to your the original game can be available, like, shipped directly to your house including shipping, for Japan, for cheap as like $5, which how they make any profit on that,
great.
God only knows.
Or you can buy it and plug it into your Retron and patch it through there.
You could.
Oh, yeah.
And there are some repros available this game, like I mentioned before. There's people out there who take an actual Super NES cart and like, you know, they'll flash the game ROM onto it and they'll put on a label, which would to give it kind of the feel of how the game might have looked if it come out like in the West. They usually these repos are usually available on the same like 2 or 3 sellers on eBay. They're all like pretty high quality, so like, you know, like working them like is very nice. Not many copies available. You know, there's 10 copies currently listed, and that includes both originals, they imported from Japan, like in repos, and 3 repos that recently sold. But those repos sold recently for, I'd say, decent prices. Like considering that, you know, repos are more expensive to begin with. They sold anywhere from $23 to $39.
That's not that bad.
That's a steal. No,
yeah,
I would
that's
pay,
not bad at all.
Yeah, no, I would pay that much money for a copy of this.
I think I actually might, because I like this game so much, I kind of want it on my shelf.
I might do that too.
Yeah, the label work for this game is pretty good. I mean, like, you know, I don't know where they got it from. I think it's probably like one of the pictures that Square probably used for advertising the game or whatnot. But yeah, it's like pretty good quality. So yeah,
Nice.
Anyway, this game was definitely a surprise. Not one I heard about, but like I said before, I'm certainly very glad you brought your attention, Tim, because this is definitely like a very like neat game. And man, like if this had come out here in the West back then, I would have been all over it, because like I said, Dragon Warrior 4, I already had played and loved it by the time the game came out. So I mean, like, you know, there's enough similarities between how the chapters work and whatnot that I would have been like all over this. But,
yeah, it would have had a decent following had it come out here.
Yeah. Well, it's always a very like big cult following, like in Japan too. I mean, like, you know, there was also a cameo appearance of some of the songs in one of the Final Fantasy Japanese only games as well. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and there's also and latest 2008 there was a soundtrack released with some like Yoko's music, which includes some songs like from this game. So
Yeah, that's true.
So it definitely has some call following
Wait, like
over there
on
too.
CD?
So. On CD,
Yeah.
yes.
I might need to go buy that.
It's called Dramaticata, the very best works, the very best of Yoko Shimomura.
I might have to go buy that.
But so yeah, you know, the beauty about soundtracks is like, you know, there's no need to worry about like translation or region locks.
Right.
But
Well, when it comes to computers and things, usually there's no such thing as region lock.
Depends. DVDs have region locks, but
Honestly, you can get around that stuff so easily.
Yeah, you can. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm just saying they do have region locks. But anyway. But this game doesn't. So, well, I mean, as long as you have a Super Famicom or a Famicom, or you've like hollowed out your Super NES to be able to take the cart. But that's actually pretty easy to do. Like all you have to do is like, you know, snap those 2 tabs out of the sides. You're good to go.
Yeah. Or if you have a Super Famicom, like some people, and when I say some people, I mean me. You just take you could just easily take the top off, and there you go. Let the Super Famicom run free.
Didn't know that, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Awesome.
So, anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Thank you again very much for joining us, Tim. We will definitely have you and hopefully Andy next time on the podcast, either later on or on PlayStation Power. So, thank you for taking time on your day to join us.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
So, as I mentioned before, you and Andy do a podcast together, like Super Podcast Brothers. Do you want to tell the good listeners a small bit about it?
No. I'm just kidding.
All right, so that was SNES Podcast. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, we do a retro gaming podcast about every 2 weeks.
Retro, quote unquote.
Yeah, well, yeah, we
Cough.
It goes
about cough.
right.
Hey man, I don't mind. I'm just alerting the listeners here.
Yeah, it's not purely retro. We go in and out from topics.
There's nothing
Which
wrong
I
with
like.
that.
I mean, like, because I'm a pretty balanced gamer myself.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I enjoy the I enjoy the mix, like, about the retro versus modern stuff on there. So it's a good balance.
We are two retro enthusiasts who kind of just have a Skype conversation for a few hours every couple weeks, and we put it up as a podcast.
That's almost like PlayStation Power, except we try to talk about the game, and then we kind of do and we kind of don't. Depends on the episode.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
The
only thing is, you talk about multiple games.
Yeah, we usually every couple of months we'll do a top 10. We used to do nothing but top 10s.
Yeah.
And now we've kind of branched out. Yesterday's episode, which is a bonus episode 6, was just about what ifs. We were just kind of like thinking,
that sounds wonderful.
We were like, what if the video game crash had not destroyed the Atari name? And like, what if Sega had come out with the first handheld interchangeable cartridge system? Like, we just kind of like explored it, and we disagreed.
What if Microsoft was the only company releasing video games?
Well, one of the questions we asked was, what if Microsoft had not made the Xbox? You know, what would have happened? And we explored that for a while, and we had a good time talking about it. But more than ever, last night, Andy and I disagreed.
Wow.
On a few topics, he would say something, and I go, no, I don't think so. I really don't. Here's why.
Yeah, I can understand that, because revisionist history is the hardest thing to be able to
when stuff gets good.
Agree on.
Well, another thing is that Andy and I are both a little different in age. He's just 30, and I'm 35, and looking at retro gaming history, that does split things a bit.
If you want to throw a wrench into the system, you should have me on.
Yeah, because you're very, very young. Compared to the two of us, you're whatever. You're very, very young. Andy said that when he was in high school, he was playing GameCube, and I went, "Oh my goodness, I bought that." I was
a kid when I was playing GameCube.
I was out of college. I was in
grad school
playing on my
GameCube.
Yeah, that was just me. That was just me. Like, I want this. Like. Game Boy Advance, for sure. I was an adult. I was already in the workforce at that point too. So, but yeah. So you can find us at superpodcastbros.com. You can also find us at superpodcastbros on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at TimOnGaming, and Facebook at superpodcastbrothers. And yeah, you can search for us on iTunes or Stitcher, Google Podcasts, anywhere you find a podcast. Our stream is available.
I think so. Let's see if this is right. Is it Google Play Music Podcasts?
Yeah, Google Play Music Podcasts. Yeah,
because it's like it's just so silly.
It's weird. But I think the best way to find us is, if you're a Google user, go on Stitcher.
I use a Podcast Addict, and I found that no problem.
Works too.
Yeah,
that one works too. And then also, or if you're an Apple user, go to iTunes. Just look up Super Podcast Bros. You'll probably find Super Mercato Bros, which is but you'll also find us. So,
should I listen to those guys?
You should. Super Mercato Bros are great.
Wait, really?
It's all about video game music.
Oh,
okay, cool.
Look at that.
Yeah, they're Super Mercato Bros. They talk about games as well, but they also do talk about video game music, and they also make their own video game music, which is amazing.
Oh.
Yeah, they do their own covers. They're so good. They're way better than me. They're way better than us. But
I don't know, Tim. I was listening to that video game music that you reinterpreted with your mouth, and it sounded wonderful.
Well, I take that as the highest praise. But I also but also Andy is very talented in music regard, because he went to school for that stuff.
Wait, school? What?
Yeah,
what is this thing?
He has a degree in I believe music engineering.
Like, how hot is that degree?
Oh, it's so hot.
Oh, okay.
It's like Kate Upton hot.
Cool. Well, yeah, definitely. I definitely recommend anybody who enjoys retro gaming podcasts to check that podcast out also, because they do like a lot of they do great stuff.
Not family friendly.
Not family friendly.
Yeah, there you go, Greg.
But it's also very long because these guys took inspiration from RGR, and so they average their podcasts like 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah, last night we did a bonus episode, which is
the bonus ones are shorter.
They're always shorter. It was only 2 hours.
That's my kind of podcast right there.
Whereas our normal ones are about 4.
If you ever listen to a podcast called The Box Fort, I remember that episodes kind of went on for like 3 hours and we talked about nothing, and it was great.
Well, the reasoning why we do it for so long is because we only do it every 2 weeks, so and maybe not even that. Sometimes, a lot of times, technology gets in the way, and or time gets in the way, because he and I are both, we both work a lot, and we're both very busy in our careers, so that gets in the way a lot too. So then we were like, well, when we do record, let's just talk forever.
That makes sense, man.
I was gonna say one other thing too. I don't know when this is gonna be published, but
next week.
Next week?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind then. Because Andy and I are gonna be in the Chicagoland area at a couple of arcades.
Oh, the Chicagoland.
Yeah, we're gonna be at a couple of different arcades, hanging out. Whatever.
Soon.
Yeah. Well, it won't matter. It's coming out next week. It was sweet.
Jim, what was your favorite game that you played?
Raiden. I love Raiden.
He had an answer. I was not expecting that.
No, because I know that when I go
timey-wimey like of some of the stuff here.
I know that when I go to the Underground Retrocade in West Dundee, Illinois, my favorite game to play is going to be Raiden upstairs, very end of the queue.
Oh, is that the sequel? Raiden Upstairs?
Raiden Upstairs, end of the queue. Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, when I walk to a classic arcade, depending upon what they have there, I'll either make a beeline either for their Star Wars game, like for Tron, because neither of those games really can be done very well at home.
Yeah, the Underground Retrograde does have Tron, and I believe they have Star Wars, and the best thing about the Underground Retrograde is that you pay $15 and you get a day pass.
Yeah, it's a cover charge.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, most retro arcades they operate that way these days.
Yeah, you just get a stamp and you're just there. That's all day. Game's free. They're all on free. They're all.
I would love to do that.
The dip switches are just set. It's so much fun, and the guy who runs the place he just loves this stuff. It's his life.
Yeah, I've heard. Yep. Yeah. So cool, awesome. George, you already mentioned when you were the podcast, so you might as well keep going. Like, what else do you do?
Why don't I just list them? Why don't I sell them wholesale to you? You got this PlayStation Power where we talk about the PlayStations and the PlayStation 2s. We got the Master System Masterpieces where we talk about Master System games. And I also do this podcast called The Box Fort, where we talk about things. That
sounds great.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. Sometimes we do Mad Libs and it's just amazing what we come up with.
That's the first question I ask my dates. I always say, do you think Mad Libs are hilarious? And if they go I don't know what that is, I go, you have a good night.
Wait, really?
No, I don't do that.
No. I meant they didn't know what Mad Libs was. That was my concern. My concern wasn't that you asked them about Mad Libs.
No,
my concern was they didn't know what Mad Libs was.
I don't go on any dates. That's the thing.
Oh, okay.
But I think Mad Libs are hilarious.
I guess that should have been a red flag for me right away, was that you were going on dates.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, you go on dates?
Like, what?
What? Somebody actually gave you an evening? No.
Actually, the vast majority of retro gaming podcasters out there are married.
Yeah, it's true.
It's scary.
Yay, to be different.
Yay, I'm single. I'm so single.
Yeah, all three of us are like right now, unfortunately, but I'm working on that.
I'm actually not. I was just kind of kidding.
Yeah, but
I joke about it all the time, kind of to anger my better half. And also to just kind of like see what's up.
True.
Ego.
Right. Yeah, of course. So this podcast is a proud member of both the Retro Junkies and Throwback Networks, where you can also find a whole bunch of their great retro themed podcasts, like both like gaming and like non-gaming related. George and I also do the PlayStation Power podcast together, like you mentioned. You can find us on Facebook. You can also email me directly at the SNES podcast at yahoo.com. And next episode, we're doing a game we teased a while back.
Yes, a while back.
A while back. Well, we had forgotten about some of these guest appearances, so that's my fault. But
it's fine.
We're finally getting so next episode, George and I are finally going to get around to covering the Super NES Port of Doom.
That's gonna be great. Can't wait, guys.
Yeah,
I can't wait either.
It's a very interesting game. I'll give it that.
One of the 2 red cartridges for the SNES.
Yes. And do you know the other one?
Yeah, it's Maximum Carnage.
Very good.
Told you I love the SNES, dude.
Tune in for us again for that episode like in 2 weeks. Tim, once again, thank you for joining us. Like you're in the podcast. It was a lot of fun.
I had so much fun. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for coming on.
Keep up the great work that you and Andy are doing like your own podcast. And we will catch you guys later. So take care, everybody.
Goodbye.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man. Now you're playing with power. Deep power.